Well, good evening, everyone, and sorry to be so loud. I don't know how many of you have been, I can't say conned or cajoled by Samir, but he's one of these guys that talks you into doing things, and I have to tell you, he's talked me into doing many things. It's an honor to be here tonight. I'm not going to take very much time because, frankly, tonight is about awards. And in advance of you passing out your awards, Samir, I want to say congratulations to those people that will be receiving award tonight, because it's really people like you driving and making a difference that, frankly, we're really here to celebrate. And that was the reason that I wanted to come and be here tonight. I also want to just for a moment acknowledge Wilf Wilkinson. I don't know how many of you may know Wilf or whether he's speaking tonight or not, but we are in the midst of truly a great Canadian. For those of you who are familiar with Rotary, do people in the room know what Rotary is? Lots of folks, okay. So this is a Canadian, and I believe the first and only ever international president of Rotary. There's been 5? Wow. So I just wanted to acknowledge you, sir, and thank you for all that you've done for Canada. I'll just say thank you to the politicians that were here tonight. We often underestimate the amount of work that they do. We criticize them morning, day, and night, but we owe a debt of gratitude to the men and women who serve in our public service, and we're grateful for all that you do. So thank you all very much. It really is a pleasure to be here tonight. As the MC described, I don't know how many of you know about the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. We have about 60,000 members, which represents about 2.5 million employees across the province. And we really have set out over the course of the last couple of years to be the voice of business in Ontario. I never aspired to be the president and CEO of the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. I've spent 30 years in the biotech, biopharmaceutical sector here in Ontario and some other parts abroad. And it's been an honor for me to do this public service. And now at no point in history is it any more important for all of you to be engaged, and I want to just take a moment and acknowledge each of you. It's Friday night. I fully expect you've all had full weeks, and you're here making a contribution to your community. When I'm visiting towns and communities around the province, I typically deliver 3 messages, and one is, if you're waiting for politicians to reinvent your community, you're going to be waiting a long time. And I don't mean to say that in any disrespectful way, but the province, the country, and your towns and communities were built by people like you that believe in your community, that volunteer your time and make a contribution. And so in this year, 2014, I think part of the challenge that I like to throw out to people is about volunteering and about encouraging the next generation to volunteer, which brings me to the second message, and that is when I go into communities and I see mature people and I don't see next generation, I encourage you to, if you're not mentoring a next generation person, that you need to do that, whether it's in your place of business or your community clubs, whatever it is. Get your next generation involved, because you just need only look around the room and you'll recognize that this baby boom set is marching on in time, and if we don't find a way to engage the next generation in an authentic way, and when I say authentic, you can't just throw them bones in kind of a superficial way. Give them real problems and put them on your boards and get them engaged. And the third area, which I'll speak to a little bit about to you tonight, is about newcomers. We've not done a very good job at embracing newcomers in our community. And when I come into rooms just like this, I often tell the story that when you walk through that door, if somebody grabs you by the elbow and introduces you around the room, how that makes you feel, versus walking into a room and not being introduced and feeling a little bit isolated. Well, you know, that's what it feels like to be a newcomer in our province. I was sharing with the MP for the area that there are some 120,000 skilled jobs going unfilled in Ontario today, and it's a bit of a crying shame because we've missed the labor market supply and demand equation in a really significant way, but we need newcomers. And so I often say to groups like this, you're all leaders in whatever it is you do. Embrace people, bring them into your communities, and embrace them in a real way. So as the voice of business in Ontario, we've set out about 26 months ago to create a vision for the province that we have now had all three political parties sign off on and endorse. And I congratulate those who won seats in the Ontario legislature yesterday. But we really need to strive to take some of the politics out of public policy. And we've seen our province really take a step back in the last number of years. When you see what goes on in minority parliaments, the short-term thinking and the politics that's been introduced into public policy. So some of you may have heard of our platform, and I'll summarize it only for you tonight because I know you're anxious to get home. The strategy is a 5-year strategy, and it was built by roughly 300 CEOs from around the province, about 7 or 8 university presidents, half a dozen college presidents, a number of NGOs, people like Samir and others. And the strategy doesn't have any branding on it from the Ontario Chamber of Commerce because I don't own the IP in it. It was really a strategy that this collective group of men and women, including every deputy of the Ontario government, put together. All I really defined was what would success look like in 5 years? If we could somehow figure out collectively how to work together, what would be the ingredients for Ontario to emerge stronger in the next 5 years? And number one is fostering a culture of innovation and smart risk-taking. We can't be second and third movers in this world. We need to be the first mover. We need to embrace innovation and take some risks. We don't do that inherently very well. One of the ways that you can do that in your firms and in your organizations is through next generation. You know, it's interesting, there's no substitute for experience. But I can tell you there's nothing more powerful in the lateral thinking of someone who's naive and doesn't know that it can't be done. And that's why I encourage you to, whatever it is you do, bring some next generation folks into your thinking, because they're a little bit naive and nobody told them it can't be done yet. And that's where your innovation and your lateral thinking will come from. Number 2 of 5 is about building a 21st century workforce through workplace training, leveraging newcomer skills, and apprenticeship reform. This notion of immigration, I'm sitting beside the PA of immigration today. We really have to figure out how we can do a better job at attracting the best and the brightest to Ontario. And it's a very serious role that the Ontario Chamber of Commerce has taken on. Number 3 of 5 is about restoring fiscal balance by improving the way in which government works. I'm not here to bash government at all, but we do have a fiscal challenge on our hand. I come from 30 years of business. Debt is your friend. Leverage it and take full advantage of it. But at the moment, our cumulative debt in Ontario represents the 3rd largest expenditure of the province, in behind health number 1 and education number 2. So this province, or this strategy isn't about cutting expense, because anybody can cut expense, make their half, make the year. I've done it. But your business won't grow in the out years if you don't invest in it, if you don't invest in your people, and if you don't invest in innovation for your business. But what I'm talking about here is more about alternative service delivery, and that's trying to find a way to sustain public services in this province by taking some things out of government. Samir, I think somebody mentioned Louis De Palma. In my shop a few years ago, we took over a government program that's part of global, what's it called, Louis? Global Growth Fund. And the government gave us a little bit of money, and we have now a partnership with the federal and provincial government on this. And last year, we distributed roughly $3.5 million to about 600 companies, and they turned it into over $175 million in export contracts. Aspirationally, what we want, and you know what? I have 3 people that run that program, 3. Aspirationally, we're going to triple that business in the next couple of years, which takes me to number 4, and that is we have to learn how to export. And that's one of the reasons I'm here today. This diaspora group of Pakistan businessmen and community leaders, this is inside baseball. And part of what I'm trying to do, and when I first met your president, we had called together roughly 16 ethnic chambers of commerce, none of whom had ever spent any time together before. And we've now had about 6 or 7 meetings, including a very successful one with the Minister of Economic Development, Trade and Employment. And the idea is if we can bring some of these communities together and teach people about your country, what it has to offer, and how you might go about doing business there. More importantly, how to connect dots and relationship. At the end of the day, everything is about relationships. If you have relationships with people, you have trust, you're going to do business together. So the issue around trade is so important. And I don't say this piece lightly, but in my lifetime, I don't think we're going to see too many big firms moving into Ontario. For no other reason than the growth opportunity doesn't exist at the moment. So what we're going to have to do is teach small to medium-sized enterprise how to become big companies. And that's really the strategy and where each of you come into play in such a dramatic way. And then finally, the notion that we have to recognize how small we are relative to the world. So notwithstanding the amount of trade that we're doing with Pakistan right now, we are a relatively small nation compared to those that are booming around us, the Chinas and South America. And I know there were some comments about the United States and our dependence on it, but they're our friends. And we trade 80% of all of our goods and services with the United States, so we're not about to let that go in any meaningful way. But what we do need to do is identify areas where we can strategically invest and take advantage in the global marketplace. So, you know, as I've crisscrossed the province in the last couple of years, I really have come to recognize communities that are being successful, and they're communities that embrace each other and where multiculturalism and people developing strong and powerful working relationships among their communities, they're being successful. They're being really successful, and that's something that I encourage each of you to bring in your own small way every day some leadership to. So that's what we're trying to do, and we've been working very closely with Samir, and I think each of you owe him a debt of gratitude. He's one of those people that, and I say this respectfully, he can kind of drive you a bit crazy, right? Because he keeps calling until you say yes to whatever it is that he's asking. But I admire that quality in you, and I think testament to your tenacity that you fill a room like this, because people are probably a little afraid that you're going to call back the 5th and 6th time unless you say yes. So I recognize it's late, and I want to just say thank you for all that you do, for the volunteer work that you do, and the commitment you've made to this community and the contribution that you're making to the province. It's very much valued. And if I could leave you with a similar message that Samir did when he left the stage earlier today, I think he described that working together, we're a lot stronger. And I can say that together we are a heck of a lot stronger than we are apart. And if we can pull together around this type of strategy and in a way that truly becomes our collective ambition, Ontario can emerge stronger, and we can leave this place better than when we found it for the next generation. And I think that's all of our collective responsibility. So with that, Samir, thank you kindly for having me, and thanks to each of you, and good luck to those who will be receiving award in a few moments.